They said Adaku was too proud for her own good. They said beauty had entered her head like palm wine. They said no woman rejects that many men and remains blessed. But none of them understood what Adaku felt deep in her chest, a quiet refusal to tie her life to a man whose spirit felt small. In the village of Umudara, surrounded by thick forests and red earth roads that stained the feet of children, Adaku was known long before she reached marriage age. When she was younger, elders would smile and say, "This one will cause trouble when she grows." They were not wrong. By the time she came of age, suitors lined up like traders on market day. The first was Okeki the farmer. He owned wide yam fields and had strong arms carved by years of labor. He arrived at her father's compound with baskets of the largest yams anyone had seen that season. He knelt respectfully. "I will feed your daughter well," he promised. Adaku watched him carefully. He was hard-working, honest. But when he spoke of his dreams, they never reached beyond harvest seasons and expanding farmland. That evening, when her parents asked her opinion, she shook her head gently. "He is a good man," she said, "but his spirit sleeps." Her father frowned. Marriage is not a wrestling match of spirits, it is survival. But Adaku remained firm. Okeke left in humiliation. The village murmured. Months later came Chibuzo the hunter. Tall, fearless, his shoulders carried leopard skins, and stories followed him like shadows. He spoke of the forest as if it were his companion. Women admired him, men respected him. He brought smoked bushmeat and rare feathers as gifts. He boasted of the animals he had killed and the dangers he had conquered. Adaku listened quietly. When he finished speaking, she asked one question. "What do you fear?" Chibuzo laughed loudly. "I fear nothing." She lowered her gaze. A man who fears nothing understands nothing. She refused him. This time her mother wept in private. "You are testing the patience of destiny," her mother whispered that night. But the suitors kept coming. There was Emeka, the trader's son, whose father owned caravans that crossed distant lands. He arrived dressed in imported cloth and offered silver bracelets that gleamed under sunlight. He spoke softly and cleverly. He promised travel, wealth, fine living. Adaku walked with him once near the village stream. He spoke endlessly of profit, of advantage, of winning negotiations. "But what would you do," she asked him, "if everything you owned disappeared?" He smiled thinly. "That will never happen to me." She saw it then, not strength, not depth, but fear hiding behind confidence. She refused him too. The village grew restless. Women began whispering that perhaps Adaku thought she was better than everyone. Young girls watched her with curiosity. Men avoided her father out of embarrassment. Her father's pride began to suffer. One evening, after another rejected proposal, he slammed his walking stick against the ground. "You shame us," he said sharply. "Do you think you are a goddess? Every man cannot be small." Adaku did not shout back. She simply said, "I will not spend my life pretending to respect a spirit that does not move me." Her mother tried another approach. "Love grows after marriage," she pleaded gently. "Security is enough." But Adaku's voice remained steady. "I do not want only security. I want depth." Time passed. Suitors became fewer. Some men no longer tried, believing she would insult them. The whispers turned darker. "She will end up alone. She thinks no man is worthy. Pride will marry her instead." Her father began waking at night, worrying about lineage, about grandchildren, about reputation. Then one evening, as Hamatan dust drifted lightly across the horizon, a stranger entered Umudara. He did not arrive with noise. He simply appeared, walking calmly along the main path as though he had always known the way. His clothing was unfamiliar, not foreign, yet not local. It shimmered slightly under the sun, smooth as river stone. His sandals were untouched by dust. His posture carried quiet authority. He greeted elders first. He bowed properly. His voice was calm, not loud, not weak, but controlled. He called himself Obinna, a traveler, a man seeking settlement. No one knew which village he came from. No messenger had announced him. Yet he carried small pouches filled with spices no one recognized and coins stamped with symbols unseen before. Within days, the village began speaking well of him. He repaired a cracked wall in the shrine without being asked. He helped a widow rebuild her cooking hut. He listened more than he spoke. Unlike the other suitors, he did not rush toward Adaku. He passed her in the marketplace once and simply nodded politely. That unsettled her more than bold attention ever had. Days later, he returned to the marketplace and purchased food for an elderly beggar. Adaku noticed. He did not boast of his strength. He did not flaunt wealth. He asked thoughtful questions when elders told stories. And when he finally approached her father's compound, he did so without spectacle. "I wish to marry your daughter," he said calmly. Her father studied him carefully. "What do you offer?" he asked. Obinna's answer was simple. Stability, protection, partnership. Not wealth, not dominance, not conquest. Partnership. Adaku felt something shift inside her. When she spoke with him privately, she asked, "What do you fear?" He looked at her for a long moment. "Losing what I value." It was the first time a man had answered her without laughter or pride. She agreed to marry him. The village exhaled in relief. Her father regained his smile. Her mother thanked the ancestors. The wedding celebration lasted 2 nights. Food overflowed. Palm wine spilled freely. Even those who once criticized her now praised her patience. After the ceremony, Obinna told her they would live outside the village. "I prefer quiet," he said softly. They walked deep into the forest, deeper than hunters dared to track. At last they reached a clearing where a magnificent house stood alone. It did not look built, it looked formed. The walls were smooth and pale. Strange carvings circled the doorframes. The air around it felt cooler than the forest itself. A small unease stirred in Adaku's stomach. Inside, everything shimmered with unnatural perfection. Gold bowls reflected lamplight. Fabrics flowed like water. The air smelled faintly of incense and something metallic. Obinna was gentle, attentive, calm. But at the end of a long hallway stood one black door. "Never open that door," he told her quietly. His eyes did not blink when he said it. For weeks she obeyed. Life seemed peaceful. Yet slowly patterns emerged. He never ate much in her presence. He left only at night. He returned before dawn, sometimes with a faint smell of smoke and iron clinging to him. Once she woke to find him standing over her, watching her sleep. When she asked why, he smiled. "I like to be certain you are safe." The reassurance felt hollow. One night she heard whispers, soft at first, then layered. She followed them down the hallway. Her heart pounded louder with each step. She stood before the black door. Her mind screamed for her to turn back. Instead, she opened it. Darkness poured outward like breath. Inside, shadows twisted unnaturally. Skulls lined curved walls. At the center stood a mirror. She approached it slowly. The reflection staring back was not her husband. It was something ancient, tall, elongated, eyes like empty wells, smoke curling from its body, a smile stretched too wide across its face. "You wished for a spirit beyond ordinary men," a voice echoed behind her. She turned. Obinna stood in the doorway, shifting between man and something else. "You rejected farmers, hunters, traders," he said calmly. "You wanted depth. You wanted greatness." His form flickered. "I am greatness." The walls began to tremble. The house pulsed like a living creature. Shadows slid across the floor toward her feet. "You belong where power belongs," he said. The forest outside dissolved into mist. The house stretched unnaturally long. She ran, but there was nowhere to run. Then she remembered her grandmother's charm tied around her waist before she left the village. With shaking hands, she tore it open. White powder spilled into her palm. Obinna stepped forward, eyes now completely hollow. "You cannot undo your choice." She threw the powder to the ground. A blinding white light erupted. The shadows shrieked. The house cracked like dry earth. Obinna's form shattered between man and spirit before dissolving into smoke. The forest returned. The house collapsed into dust. Adaku found herself standing at the edge of her village at sunrise. Days later, villagers discovered her wandering silently near the stream. She never explained fully what happened, but she no longer spoke of seeking a man with a great spirit. She married years later, not the richest man, not the strongest, but one who was steady and kind, because she learned something the village would whisper about for generations. Depth without humanity is darkness. Power without warmth is danger. And sometimes the spirit that appears greatest is only the hungriest.